presentation, and a little bit later there will be a PC that's going to work. It's the first hotel in my life that doesn't work with a Mac, but we'll see. But I have everything in my mind. I just wanted to show you some pictures and some movies because I think seeing is believing. And but I start telling you a little bit about. Oh, Raphael, na? Hallo. Also haben wir jetzt keinen PC oder was? Ich höre gleich auf, das sag ich dir. Was jetzt? Der soll einen PC besorgen.
Der Mann wollte sich einen PC kaufen.
Wahnsinn, das ist echt so schlecht, ey.
Ich hole schnell einen PC.
Okay. Okay, we can go. That was the guy with the magic hands who just touched it and then it worked. That's the best you can have if you have an IT support. What I want to tell you today is a day in the life of a distiller. We have a little distillery in Hamburg. Hamburg is Germany's second largest city. We have a big harbor, was number 2, now it's number 3 in Europe. And in the north of Germany, distilleries are not so popular like in the south of Germany. In the south of Germany, we have a big tradition about schnapps, producing Obstlers, producing spirits from fruits. But in the north, it's not very common. And so it was a really hard way to found a distillery there. And I'm going to explain you a little bit about our way. Raphael's working in the distillery as well. He's Portuguese. And about this German-Portuguese relationship, I'm going to tell you a little bit. If you have any questions, just ask. It's more or less a little presentation, and you can ask whenever you want if you have any question. Why I'm doing this? It's to kill saudade. I really fell in love with this country many years ago. My best friend is Portuguese, Miguel. Our children played together in the same football team, and both families really got close connected, and we spent every holiday in Portugal and in the house of his parents, and Donna Alice made bacalhau, and we saw Portugal from inside, what was very nice. And whenever I went back to Germany, to the cold Germany, where the people don't smile, I had this feeling I wanted to go back to Portugal. And then some things came together. I was not happy with my job in advertising because I had to make too many presentations in hotels where presentations didn't work. So I sold my company in 2009. And then I did a sabbatical in Portugal, obviously. And I spent a lot of time here hiking the Costa Vicentina, the Rota Vicentina, which is a really beautiful way to discover Portugal because you are next to the Atlantic and you have this beautiful nature. And on this hikings, an idea was born because I came from drinking gin to collecting gin. I had about 60 gins in my house at that time to making gin. And I had to kill saudade with one idea around Sage, which is a very beautiful little village at the border of Alentejo and Algarve. And I came back to this place every time, and one day I decided to build a house there, and now we're living there part-time. And when I walked at the Falaisiers, I realized that there's, obviously before, there's a plant growing you might have recognized already. It's called it's a plant that grows around the Mediterranean, not just here in the coast, in the smell. And that always reminds me on Portugal. So whenever we went back to Germany, we took some leaves back home, put it in a little tin, and whenever we felt sad, we opened this tin and everybody was smelling. And especially the children really loved this. And if you go the road to Ortsage and you open the windows and you realize this smell for the first time, that's really what I feel. I'm not a Portuguese, but I know a little bit what it means, saudade. Then you feel this, you have this deep feeling that every sense is connected with this. And I always wanted to do something with this plant. And then everything came together, and I realized that this plant grows right beside juniper trees. There's a lot of juniper in the Costa Vicentina as well. Unfortunately, this juniper is Phoenician juniper, which is not good for your liver. So, I mean, too much is even not good for your liver, but this juniper is poisonous. So I had the idea of making a Portuguese gin. That was around 2009, 2010. That was before every little city had its own gin. And then I did what every advertiser, every copywriter does. He makes a presentation and goes to the Câmara Municipal. And then I presented the authorities in Algesur my idea of building a schoolhouse into a distillery. And then they said, no, it's not possible inside the village. And I said, yes, but in London it's inside the village, and in Munich it's inside the village. In Brooklyn you have distilleries. No, that was not the argument. And then we exchanged arguments, and I went there for several times trying to found a distillery in Portugal, which was for me as a foreigner was very difficult. And after 7 months of discussing and meetings and help from others, from Lisbon, from politicians, from everybody, I realized that it's too dangerous to invest all the money I've collected before into a business where I don't know when and if I get a license to do this. So I went back and I was really sad, and I tended to kill the project. I started already developing the recipe for this Portuguese gin, and then I had some good friends who came to me and said, you walk like nearly 1 year developing this idea, you can't stop now, try to do it in Hamburg. And then I started searching for a place, and instantly we found a nice place to build a distillery, and now we are distilling a Portuguese-inspired gin, or a Portuguese gin in Hamburg with Portuguese ingredients partly, and with Portuguese co-workers. So we are a mixture between both countries a little bit, and as Gin Lover said, it's a declaration of love to this country. So in this, love is in every part of our product and our work. We do this because we love to work in distilling gin, and so we have this bottle that is a little bit an inspiration about the tiles in Portugal. You know, it's made of ceramic, and we have this blue color that you find around the windows in the Algarve. And here are some of the botanicals we use in distilling the gin. Everything is really handcrafted. Handcrafted is a major trend in this last years. It's so trendy that even the industry tries to imitate the small micro distilleries, or if they can't imitate, they are trying to buy them. Like 2 weeks ago, when Monkey 47 was bought by Pernod Ricard. So the big trend of micro distilleries is still ongoing, like in the brewing business as well. We have a huge trend coming from the United States and from UK, even in Germany, where you have a lot of microbreweries. And last year I saw that there are some couple of breweries in Portugal as well, which is a really good news, because it's the only country that just has two beer brands. And there's going to be much more interesting stuff coming up. So we have Zimbro, because Zimbro juniper you need for making a gin. That is even in a European law. There's a European law about spirits. What is what? What can be named what? For instance, an ouzo has to be produced in Greece, and there are some rules. And the rule about gin says it has to have 37.5% ABV, and it has to taste like juniper. That's everything. And that is how you can make a gin that costs around €6.99 in the Lidl, because you just can take alcohol, water, and some artificial aromas, mix them together. You call it compound gin or bathtub gin, and then you have a gin. And then there are some other stages making gin, and what we do is the last stage is distilling everything by ourselves, collecting many of the botanicals by ourselves, and then distilling it. This is a picture of Paul. Paul works in our distillery. He is one of the youngest distillers in Germany. He's 22. He really learned it. He quit school to become a distiller and learned this for 3 years. There's a school in Dortmund which educates the young brewers and the young distillers. And he went there for 3 years. And now he's working for SUL, and when I'm here, he is distilling, and when he has holidays, I'm distilling. So we are really doing this together. And here you can see some juniper berries. We have this little mill, and we squeeze the junipers, not every juniper, but most of them, to open them, because if you ever had juniper in your hand, it doesn't smell really like juniper, but if you open it, there are these oils inside, and we need these oils for this distilling. And another second very important ingredient for our gin is our lemons. And I think this country has the nicest lemons in Europe. Okay, in the Amalfi there are some nice lemons as well, but these are winter lemons, so they're a little bit smaller. And this picture is taken in our little plantation. We have 25 own trees in Otzage, and then we have a farmer that produces the other lemons for us. And sometimes we collect these lemons from our trees, but nearly every week we get 20, 30, 40 kilos lemons from Portugal. Why we import them ourselves? Because we just use the zest of the lemon. And nearly 99% of the lemons you get in the market in Europe is treated with chemicals or wax. Because lemons really fast schlecht werden? See? And so they're treated, even the biological ones, but we need them without anything, because we use them in distillation. I will show you, because I made a diary about distilling. I will show you later on. When we use the lemons in the distillation of the gin, afterwards, after 8 hours, the peel is gray and doesn't taste anything, you know. And that is why we need really biological. And the biological lemons we get in Germany are small like eggs, and we use the zest, so we need really good lemons. And we need lemons all the year, and that's why especially the Algarvian lemons called Eureka are very good, because they have flowers and fruits at the same time. So you can collect lemons and have more lemons later on this year. And if you like to, I show you a little video about our farmer, Senor Antonio from Algesur. He has some 130 lemon trees in the region around Monchique, and he's the guy who's producing it. Unfortunately, he hasn't got a computer, so the UPS guy always has to print out the label when he catches the parcel.
Olá, eu sou o Luís António, sou produtor de limões, tenho Tem muitos, este agora com aqui, estes aqui, eles queimam dia 7 de outubro. Quando vai daqui um mês e meio, começa a soltar desta cor assim. A área da herdade são 7 hectares, mas mais de metade está de eucaliptos. O resto está de limões, que tenho aqui na volta de 130 limões. Ureca, tem aí, são limões ureca e brevemente plantei aí mais 52 lunares. Os lunares possivelmente têm a casca mais fina que o jureca. Os jureca são com a casca mais grossa. Que possivelmente para o gin que os senhores preferem talvez mais jureca porque tem a casca mais grossa. Tem mais aroma. O segredo dos limões portugueses serem assim grandes é o terreno, basicamente o clima e a água ser bastante boa também para produzir o limão. Preparado? A água que se usa aqui para os limões é água tirada de nascentes de minas, que já os meus pais, os meus avós fizeram antigamente com trabalhos a cortar terrenos, por baixo dos terrenos, que eu ainda trabalhei ainda novo, quando tinha pai meus 15 anos, 16 anos. É um trabalho bastante duro, mas é bonito ver debaixo do terreno a água brotar das rochas. E quando se nasce, quando a gente encontra a água, que nasce a água na rocha, é uma alegria enorme.
Yeah, I would say that's the best lemons you can get on Europe that Senor Antonio produces. No, I have to say this. But what I realized that when I show this video in UK or in Asia or in Germany, the people are really fascinated. But I assume that every grandmother of yours has a lemon tree in this house, so you're not so excited like I am, but the lemons are really cool. So and that's a little bit about the Steva. I want to show you where this is, where the gum rock rose, as it's called in English, is growing. We're collecting it by ourselves. Then we collect like 4 or 5 times a year a lot of leaves, especially in the summer, because in the summer we have the best quality. As you can see now, we have just the small green leaves have the labdanum, called the gum, on the leaves, and these winter leaves are really dry. So we have to wait a little bit for collecting new Steva, and the scent is not so intense. Maybe if you like, I can show this around. We have these beautiful flowers. If you go to the region around Villa do Bispo, you have this really big mountains full of flowers in April, May. That's really beautiful. And nobody's doing anything with this. So we try to have the scent of Portugal inside the gin as well. I have a little video about the area where it's made. This is the beach of Otsej, the Falésias. And this is all juniper, and this is Steva. Now we have the distillery in Hamburg, which is a little piece of Portugal in Hamburg. Hamburg is the city with the most Portuguese inhabitants in Germany. We have around 10,000 Portuguese people living in Hamburg. We have an old Portuguese sailing ship in our harbor. We have our own Barro Portuguesa, called Bairro Portuguesa. And so our distillery is a little bit inspired by Portugal as well, because we have all these nice tiles from Portugal. This is our distillery. We just have 100 liters. It's a machine from Arnold Holstein from the Bodensee. It's one of the biggest companies producing distilleries. Our is one of the smallest, because when I started the project, I didn't assume that it's going to be a little bit successful. So I thought, make it a little bit smaller so I can do everything by myself without help of others and without machines. Because we don't filter, we don't pump. This is just made by hand. So the size of the machine, of the pot, is so that everything I can do by myself. Like we have this 40, 50 liter inox, and then I can fill the still by myself. Now the machine is a little bit too small, and we try to get a bigger pot still, but due to the large renaissance of distilling, these companies are fully booked out, so we have to wait for a year until we get our new pot. We just can build it in this company because all the wiring is connected to a little computer that arranges the temperature of the water bed, so we have to wait a little bit. Before we start distilling in the morning, we have to start 2 days earlier with the maceration process. That means we put alcohol and water into the still, and then we add all our botanicals. Then was heißt das umgerührt? Maschere. And then we wait for 36 hours, and in the morning, 2 days after, we start distilling. But a distillery without helping hand doesn't make sense, so I show you a little bit about the people working in the distillery. That's my first employee is Celia. She's Portuguese, but she was raised in Hamburg. She's doing all the paper stuff. We have a lot of paper stuff. If you have a distillery, you need to declare everything to the customs. We do this on a monthly basis, but you have to really calculate every bottle you sell, and that goes out of the distillery. Then we have Paul, I mentioned already. He is the distiller. Then we have Roger, who is a barman. He worked in the Monkey Bar in Berlin. Ever somebody been there in the Monkey Bar? Now he works for us. Then we have John, who's taking care for the export. Raphael, who is our good soul in the production. He started when he was on education, filling the bottles. Now in January he finished his education, and now he works in the distillery. And then our newest member is Julia, who is going to take care for gastronomy in Germany a little bit. A day in the distillery starts with Bon Dia in the distillery. Really early, we start at 7 to 8 a.m. Start in the preparing the distillation. We need fresh lemons in the morning. We have this inox basket I mentioned already. That is going to be between the still and the head of the distillery. I will later show you a picture of this. So Paul or I start shaving the lemons, and the lemons without the peel we give to bars at the evening because they can use it for a sweet and sour mix. And then we add some other botanicals, the fresh botanicals in this vapor basket, like alecrim, rosemary, and roses, and lavender. Lavender. So this is a picture showing this inox basket between the still and the head. Then the still is closed. We start heating the distillery. We do this with electricity. When you have bigger distilleries, sometimes you use vapor, but then you need another house that's producing the vapor, or you use gas. And here I have a little picture of the distillery. Here we have a water bed. The still goes until here. It's round. The water bed takes care that you have a constant, the same temperature. Then you have the vapor basket between here, between the still and the head. And so when the alcohol, water, and the macerate gets hot enough, the vapor goes up and has to go through this basket and takes all the nice lemon, the freshness of the lemon within to the distillate. So if you compare fresh lemon peel, shaved really thin, to industrial dried lemon peel, then it's a huge difference. It's totally different products. You have the fresh lemon peel is really fresh, like a child would describe lemons. And the dried ones are really bitter because they are shaved by machines sometimes, and they have a lot of the white part of the zest, and that is bitter. And with drying lemons, you lose a lot of the oil inside the peel, and this oil we want to have. So it doesn't make sense for us. Then the vapor goes up. Behind the column, it goes in a tube, and then goes in the column. We have these columns where the alcohol is rectified. The columns are open when we distill because we are distilling a gin. So we want to have a lot of the aroma inside the distillate. That's the purpose of our doing. If you do a schnapps, then you would close these columns, fill them with water to rectify the alcohol more. If we start here with 50% and end with 96, if you start with producing schnapps, you have 5, 6, 7, 8%, then you need to rectify the alcohol much more. Then it goes up. There we have a deflegmator called. It's tubes inside cold water. Then we go here into the cooler. We have cold water coming from the tap here is inside, and then we have the hot vapor coming from the top, and then we have a condensation, and then at the end we have distillate. So after an hour and a half, we raised the temperature to the 70, 78, 80, 85% degrees Celsius, and then what starts is the first piece of the distillate, which we don't use. And then we put down the electricity a little bit and keep the temperature constant for about 6 to 7 hours, and then we distill the gin. And there's some pictures later on. You have some bubbles. And if there's some time, we can do something else, because it's not just the whole time working on the distillery. So we can take a look at what Raphael is doing. We have a second place on a backyard where we fill the bottles. Until February, we fill all the bottles by hand. Now we bought a used machine that is built now for us that's going to fill the bottles a little bit more faster. Raphael is really fast, but that's really, we need to put all the Portuguese corks inside by hand. We put everything on top, and that's not helping the taste of the gin if we work this long. And then what's always a big part in the distillation is documenting everything. We have to documentate the start, the beginning, the amount of alcohol used for the customs. The customs show up in the distillery whenever they want. Germany is a federal country, so we have many different states, and every state does it in another manner. In some states in Germany, they really come with uniforms and guns and dogs when they control the distilleries. In our case, it's just a normal office guy who's really nice. So we are lucky. So around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we are finished. So this is when Paul opens the still. We have the vapor coming out. We have just a little bit. As you can see here, it's just the botanicals, some water, a little bit of alcohol, around 10%. and that's going to be put away. Doesn't taste really good. It's like cooking Zimbro is not really nice. So that's the purpose of the job, is to put everything what's nice into the distillate, and everything what's not nice, what is bitter, doesn't taste good, we put away. And then after that, cleaning. Cleaning is 1 hour around putting everything in shape together. We have some high pressure water. We use the hot water from the cooler to clean the distillery afterwards. And then when we are finished with the distillation, we do the most important thing that a distiller can do: drink his own stuff, have a nice gin tonic at the evening, and that's a little bit in short terms what we do when we distillate. Then after the distillation, we collect all the distillates, and we're making like a cuvée of all the distillates, so we have really an equal quality. And then after 2 or 3 weeks, we can use the distillate to fill the bottles. I just wanted to show you a little bit about our special editions we did. When we are just doing one product, which is gin SUL, so sometimes for Paul and me it's a little bit boring. We want to do something else, but we don't want to make too many products. So we decided to make a special edition every year with a different approach. In 2014, we made a barrel-aged gin with a port wine barrel. We bought a port wine barrel in Portugal with a ruby port, where ruby port was inside. And last year, we bought 4 Moscatel de Setúbal barrels. I really like Moscatel, even as a replacement for gin. I really like white port with tonic and Moscatel with tonic, or Moscatel with ice. Simply, I really think it's a nice distilled wine that can be used even for mixing. And due to the fact that the Moscatel has white grapes, it suits good to gin, in my opinion. So we had this 4 barrels. I have a picture here. Then we took some black, red, and golden stuff when we sealed the barrels, because we wanted to make sure that no custom stops us. And then the barrels were shipped on a cruise ship. This is the MS Europe 2, which was voted the best cruise ship in the world for 3 times in a row. And the barrels were put on top of the ship, and that's a little bit a reminiscence to the Torna Viagem they did with the Moscatel wines and with Madeira wines and ports as well. Everybody knows about Torna Viagem, or shall I explain quickly? Torna Viagem was the fact when you had wines that were exported to Brazil or to other Portuguese overseas departments. The barrels were opened there and tasted, and the people said, okay, it's better than in Portugal. So the Portuguese said, okay, let's take them back to Portugal. And they thought about, why is this? So if you take a white wine and put it in a barrel, you might not be sure that it's going to be better if it goes to the equator. They built some machines in Madeira where they imitated the movement of the ships, but it didn't have the same effect until the people realized that it's because of the climate changes you have on the ship. So if a ship goes in warmer regions, in the daytime you have really, the barrels really get around 50, 60 degrees. Even our trip, that was just from Hamburg to Lisbon, the barrels on the daytime were really hot. So inside the barrel, the fluid expands into the barrel, and in the night it gets really, really cold. And this constant change, hot, cold, combined with a little boom, the movement of the ship, made these Madeira wines better. And we thought it's a nice idea to salute for this idea and to have some barrels put to Portugal again. So the barrels were filled in Hamburg, went on the ship, went to Lisbon, and then back. Okay, not quite so fast because the customs the Alfanga didn't let the barrels out of the harbor of Lisbon, but we managed this. And I have a little video about this too, if you're interested. Jetzt habe ich das ausgemacht, das ist nicht gut. Before you fill barrels, you have to water them. Otherwise, the gin would So here you can see how white the spirit is. It's normal gin. And at the end we have a really nice barrique color inside the... We just produced 2,000 bottles, and they are already sold. In Germany, the people really collect these bottles. So the price was around 69.90 was the recommended retail price, and now the shops sell this gin for about 100 euros. And I saw a bottle on eBay for 120, so it's really crazy. Because every bottle is numbered, it's just 2,000 bottles, so it's a little bit collecting about this. And this year we're going to do something else, because when we started making barrel-aged gin, there was just Citadel with a barrel-aged gin and I think the bathtub gin. And there were not so many barrel-aged gins, but nowadays everybody is doing this, so we stopped doing this. We're doing something else this year. It's going to be really interesting. And it's going to be taking place here in Portugal. Paul and me, we are going to go to the Algarve, and we're going to distill here in the countryside and make a gin that's going to be completely different. Perhaps it's not going to be a gin. Maybe it's close to a gin. I'm not sure yet, but we're going to start the distilling and the collecting in June, and then to October we're going to have the new gin. So I don't want to bore you any longer. If you have any questions, please ask. If you have some time, I have another movie that's 10 minutes long, but I don't want to punish you anymore with my presentation. So if you have any questions, please. Okay. Thank you very much.
Sorry, quick question. The barrel-aged gin, you say is now collectible in the bottle. Does it taste different with age? Does it age or change in the bottle? Or?
Yes, a little bit. A little bit. I recently opened a bottle from 2014 from our port wine gin, and it really changes a little bit. It gets even more smoother in the bottle. You have the same effect when you do slow gin. Slow gin is not a gin; it's a liquor, but slow berries. You have this taste when you eat a banana that's too fresh. You have something in the mouth that is, I don't know the English word for this, but the longer the older the slow gin is, the better it gets, in my opinion. You have a really red color in the beginning, and after 1 or 2 years it gets really dark and really Bordeaux colored and in my opinion, gets better. But with gin, I'm not sure. I have a bottle of Gordon's from 1972 that is unopened in my home. I found in my father's house. I found a bottle that was not opened yet. I think with gin it's a little bit different, but there are also collectors collecting vintage gins. You pay like £150 for a bottle of old Tanqueray or old Gordon's from the late 60s. But I don't know. I never tasted one of them.
How long is the gin in the barrels for? When you barrel aging them?
For around 3 months.
3 months?
Because the barrels, the 225 liter, this borderless size, is compared to the strong spirit and the white spirit, it's really a small barrel, and you have a lot of wood and not so much liquid. So after 2 weeks, we realized that it's changed completely. So I don't want it to make a barrel-aged gin that's just tasting barrique. I wanted to have the moscatel tone in the foreground. And it's nothing for gin tonic. It's more for, as a sipping spirit or for Martinez or Martini, that's a perfect usage for a barrel-aged gin, but not, please not in a gin tonic. Tastes awful. Okay. Thanks. Ja, kannst du mal. Ja,